This is the microphone I'm using for probably all of my future recordings. It seems to do a much better job than the built-in microphone, and of course it allows me to have this piece up on my chest so you get a better recording of my voice, which may or may not be a good thing. But anyway, just in case you're wondering, I know when I started my channel, that was one of the biggest complaints was audio quality, and I mean, I agree, it was terrible. A lot of the videos, there was so much wind. Living in Texas, we get a lot of wind, so I've listened to you and tried to get better and better as I go, so hopefully going forward we won't have audio issues. Hello YouTube, W&J's Handy Dad here, and today we're going to see if we can install this spotlight on the 2010 Crown Vic P7B. I got this off of eBay, and this is what I got, so I hope it's not missing any pieces. I realize it's missing the mounting screws. Hopefully I can make something work there. The lens, as you see, is pretty bad shape. Hopefully we'll be able to buff that up and get it looking good and get the black side of it polished up enough that it is acceptable. Probably need to take it apart and oil it or something. There's a lot of resistance on moving it, and of course I need to test and make sure it works before I even dig into all this. Although even if it doesn't actually light up, having it just to fill that hole should make the car look better. Now, before you do this on your car, you want to check your laws. So I'm just going to quote Texas, since I'm a Texas prosecutor and I actually handle these type of cases. This is perfectly legal in Texas. You can have it on your car, you can even use it as long as it's not pointed basically at the traffic. So I'm going to read right out of my prosecutor book. Section 547.327 of the Texas Transportation Code, spot lamps are permitted. A motor vehicle may be equipped with not more than 2 spot lamps. B, a spot lamp shall be aimed so that no part of a high intensity portion of the beam strikes the windshield, window, mirror, or occupant of another vehicle in use. So they're not only legal, they're legal to have on, arguably, while you're driving, as long as they're not pointed in a direction that violates that statute. Now obviously if you don't live in Texas, you want to check your state laws, because they will surely differ and you may not even be allowed to have this on the car. Here's the other weird thing about the law. So this is legal to have, as is a push bumper, but the law requires them to remove this from the car before they auction the vehicle. But then the law also requires them to sell this in the auction. So it seems very foolish, but you basically, they have to remove this and then sell it so you can buy it and put it back on the car. So I'm going to start with some mag and aluminum polish and see if that cleans up this lens at all. Right now it's extremely hazy, so this should help. See, we're getting off some of that oxidation already. So I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but that has made an amazing difference already. I could have done that with the power buffer too. But a lot of times I like doing this stuff by hand. It's less messy, it doesn't fling off of the buffer, and you know, a little more control. You can also feel it with your fingertip when you hit rougher spots that need more attention, or once you start feeling the smoothness, then usually you know you've buffed it fully. So if we just do a little bit here on the black side, what that does for it. So let's see, we're getting some of that oxidation off. Not as noticeable as the front side, so I may not waste my time buffing this. This may just need some spray paint. So I'm going to check the bulb. It's a T10 screw on mine to open this up. This is a Unity spotlight. Obviously if you have a different brand, it may be a different size. And then obviously you give it about a quarter turn and then it releases. We can also check the wiring while we're in here. It looks like everything's wired up. Then to get the bulb out, you've got these little spring clamps. They push down and in, and that releases them, and then the bulb itself comes out. I expected the bulb is burned out, it doesn't light up. So pretty crappy when you buy stuff and they don't tell you that it's burned out or whatever. So I'll probably contact the seller on eBay and say, you know, what the heck. I went through my massive collection of bulbs and found two that technically will work. So this is a fog light off of the Chevy Avalanche, and this is of course just a generic LED. So you can slide the LED in there and then try to maneuver it to stick. I don't think it's going to be bright enough because this is more of like a dome light, whereas this obviously lights up, you know, the exterior of the vehicle being a fog light. Obviously you don't just pop it in there like that. So what I'm going to do is melt that off of there. It's just basically almost the same bulb that was in the spotlight, except soldered to this little connector here. And there's a Phillips screw on the end. You can pry this end cap off with a knife or a small screwdriver and get the crap that was in there. So I'm going to need to see if I can clean that out. That's probably why this thing was not wanting to turn or whatever. So I have to say I'm really disappointed in this eBay seller to sell something in this poor of condition, missing parts and everything, and not putting in the listing. So I've cleaned this out a little bit. I basically sprayed some penetrating oil in there and then some Dawn and water mix. Just kind of clean all the gunk out of there. There we go. And with the handle removed, then you can slide this off of here. So this piece is actually connected to here. So you know me, my OCD kicks in and I want stuff to look new. So I went ahead and gave this a light 1000 grit sand, cleaned it up with alcohol, and just going to hit it with some of this Krylon Max. It's a primer and paint, gloss black, and then I'll hit it with the clear on top of it. I'd really prefer to use the clear out of the paint gun, but since I'm at home, that's not going to happen today. Alright, I took that fog light bulb and basically rigged it up to fit in here. I had to solder just a little piece of metal onto it to make it reach. So the way the bulb works, as I can tell, is it goes in like this, and the hot touches against the hot lead, and then the ground is shorter. So because that bulb was cut like this, I had to basically add a little piece of wire to it, and you will see now that it works. So it's not going to be as bright as the police spotlight, but since I'm not doing law enforcement work, I don't really need it to be, you know, used for traffic stops and stuff. I just wanted to have a spotlight on there since the car came with one, and now it just has that hole there. You need to pull this trim piece. I find it's easier to pull down your weather stripping, and then you can kind of reach in and grab a hold of it. And there should be 2 metal clips that hold it in, and then at the bottom it just kind of fits in there. The plastic is formed. You see they drilled just a hole, there's no cut. So we got to remember when we put the light in, we got to put this trim piece on before we finish, otherwise this trim piece won't go back on, and I really don't want to cut it. Then the power connector should just be a bullet connector, and since the spotlight has the opposite end of this, it should just plug right in, and this would be the hot power. So you can see there's the hole. They just filled it with like silicone RTV, and they didn't leave me any of the hardware, screws or anything, so we have to hope that the new spotlight, since it doesn't have the outer bracket, will still work. And there's the inside view. So now I'm just waiting for the paint to dry so I can put her in. This here is a 15-30 seconds Allen key to turn that, and when you do, that slides out of there. So I enlarged the hole, and should be big enough. I may have to go back and enlarge it a little bit more, but basically it's just a fine tuning of getting that so it's not too big, but it's big enough to allow the cable and the post to come through, and then still letting it snap back into place. Alright, I widened it quite a bit, but it's snapped back in, and now let's put the weather stripping back on. So the rest, we'll just be putting the handle back on here and connecting the electrical. I've determined that this is the easier way to put the bulb in, is to have this on the car and flip it over. That way it kind of holds steady for you. So connect the hot and then the ground. Only reason I'm doing it that way is the hot is longer, gives you more room to move around. And then these little notches just sit into there, and those pads hold it up. You just place this back on, find where the sweet spot is there, and then give it the little, it's not even a quarter turn, it's just a little bit of a turn to lock into place. And you'll know it's locked in when the screw hole is lined up on the bottom side over here. So that hole there is lined up, and put the screw back in there, and then that'll be secure. Now I put some penetrating oil inside of here yesterday, and this thing is moving very free. When I first got this, it was like sandpaper grinding in there. With the handle with the little lock nut in there, but not the bolt on it yet. And you just want to find that little sweet spot where it'll slide on. And there you go. And then just connect the electrical. It's just a bullet connector, so it just pushes in. I'm wondering if all that white powder that was in there was actually just white lithium grease that had dried up and crystallized. So I'm going to go ahead and put some white lithium in here, because I definitely believe that there needs to be lubrication there, since there's metal on metal. And then we'll put this grease cap back on and reinstall the screw. So if your spotlight's not working and you don't have power there, it's this 20 amp fuse right there, number 2. Mine was blown, and now I have a working spotlight. And then these are the adjustment screws. This one adjusts how easy it is to rotate, in other words, this action. And this one adjusts how easy it is to swivel. So if you have it too loose, it just kind of drops down. If you have it too tight, then you'll have a hard time lifting it up. If you need to change your bulb, or you want to upgrade to an LED, and you've already got your spotlight on, start by unscrewing the T10 screw, and don't lose the screw. And these just kind of a quarter turn and pop off, and then you should be able to get to the bulb. And it just has the ground and the hot. And that comes out. Now, you saw me change the bulb itself before, but I'm changing the whole fixture now. I ground the tips down with the Dremel. And we'll try this again. So it fits without the sponges. So I hope the video was helpful. Appreciate a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and please tell your friends about my channel. Thank you very much.